Okay, so I wanted to do a video basically on this. Um, I saw people divested or Crystal Swirl's video on Courtney Taylor's situation involving Christian Obumseli, otherwise known as Toby. Um, and, you know, I definitely do agree with many of the things she was saying there. Specifically on the whole thing of femicide, black femicide, I think if you. I don't understand why no one is talking about this on the divested side, but it's like, there's a lot of people who talk about the whole situation with femicide, black femicide, and the whole thing, the whole issue with domestic abuse and the higher rates for black women involving black men. So, part of me kind of feels like, you know, why would anyone think that this would not be the typical case of such? And I mean, like, it's not that hard to realize that, but even the information we had before the lawyer actually spoke on the case in depth, and I have the clip right here and I'm gonna show it. But I mean, like, you know, as I said before, she called the police 7 times on this man for domestic abuse, and she was actually trying to end the relationship, according to this. So, I mean, like, it appears that obviously this is a domestic situation, and if you understand domestic abuse, how it works, in many cases, this is a very classical example of it, basically. And I feel like it's kind of weird that people kind of veer away from this, especially in the divested side of the sector. I feel like Crystal Swirls touched upon it a bit, but I haven't really seen anyone else talk about it or talk about, this is a classic sign of black male behavior with their partners. We talk about this with black women and, the whole situation with black femicide and how so many black women lose their lives to black men that they are romantically involved with. And many of the time from men that they were experiencing basically domestic abuse from. So it's not like it's that shocking that these women would not be the only ones who experience this, not just black women, but also women of the white race and Hispanic race and people who are involved with black men. You can see for Courtney Taylor, she specifically says she prefers black men. So her relationship struggles and experiences may be very, very, very similar to a lot of black women who complain about this type of behavior and this type of dysfunction with black men. Now, there was one thing that Crystal Swirls touched upon, how she was talking about how the black manosphere is quiet about this issue. And it's like, of course they're quiet about the issue because this is not a story that is bad against white women. This is a story that's bad against black men. Because the bad actor in the situation was Christian Abumseli, not Courtney Taylor. Courtney Taylor was simply defending herself. So it kind of creates the narrative against black men, not really anyone else, not white women, not black women, not white men, black men. But let's let the video play and then I'll get back to it.
An OnlyFans model has been accused of fatally stabbing her boyfriend, but her lawyer argues that it was in self-defense. Courtney Clenny is accused of killing Christian Toby Abumseli, but according to CBS4 Miami, Clenny's lawyer, Frank Prado, believes that it was not a crime. He told the outlet, quote, "Courtney is innocent. She acted in self-defense, and there should be no files charged in this case." Fredo also said that when the final review of the incident is done by the state attorney and the City of Miami Police Department, they will see that there's no case here. According to a statement from the police department, when first responders arrived on the scene Sunday afternoon, shortly after the alleged attack, they discovered Clenny in the residence with Abumseli. She was promptly interviewed by detectives. The police say that the preliminary investigation determined that both Abumseli and Clenny had been involved in a physical altercation, with the altercation being referred to as a domestic violence incident. However, Abumseli's family believes that this could not have been a case of self-defense. They told CBS4 Miami that Abumseli was raised by a, quote, strong family to have strong morals and strong values. Clenny's lawyer, however, claimed that Clenny kicked Abumseli out of her apartment a week before his death because of domestic abuse allegations. The lawyer added that it was clearly a toxic relationship. Online, Clenny goes by Courtney Taylor. She is a popular OnlyFans model and social media influencer who has amassed more than 2 million Instagram followers. Both she and Abumseli were Texas natives who had relocated to Miami. The Supreme Court.
So, as far as that goes, as everyone can see, she had ended the relationship. She left him. He came to her place and kept coming to her place, even after he had beaten her 7 times in 1 month, been kicked out of her apartment, taken off of her lease, and still came back to attack her and possibly end her life. This is not a good look for black men when you talk about situations like this, especially when it makes it look even worse because you're basically saying someone struggling with a relationship that is domestically abusive by an obsessed individual who will not let go, most likely might be homicidal, that you can't defend yourself from that person because that man is black and she is white. Otherwise, people are going to come up with the idea that this person is a murderer simply because she is white and he is black. So, my thing is this. I kind of feel like people don't, like, for example, the manosphere doesn't want to talk about it because the more you delve into it, the more it makes black men look badly. Because it makes the black man look like he was so aggressive, animalistic, violent towards his partner. And this isn't specific to him being black, by the way. You know, I don't do that. But I'm saying in this situation, that's what he was towards his girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, because she did kick him out. That wasn't even her boyfriend at the time. But, you know, he was all those attributes, basically. And she had to basically defend herself from this individual because he would not let go. He would not let go. And, you know, he turned it into a deadly situation. You know, this is exactly what people try to say and speak against interracial dating when it comes to black men and black women to some extent, but mainly black men, you know. And this is why if everyone knows me, I'm not one to say that interracial dating is wrong for black men or black women. I am for it for both sides, so don't come for me here on that. But what I'm saying is that this is a bad look for them. Because all it's really basically doing is basically painting the image that the black man doesn't really want to show, which is, a scary, violent, dangerous individual who literally put this woman through a very traumatic event that almost nearly ended her own life. And then added to it all the backlash for her simply trying to defend herself and save her own life just because he happened to be black. If he was white, nobody would have even talked about this. But because he's black, everybody's putting a spotlight on this. Everyone is putting a spotlight on this, and it's like it can't even be dealt with properly. It can't even be seen in a normal context, just simply because the man was black and she was white. That, if you think of it from the perspective of someone who is white, why would anyone want to even put themselves in a situation like that? If it's so much trouble like that. If you are in a dangerous situation, you'll be made out to be the perpetrator simply because you are white. That is not a good look. It's not a good look for the black men looking to interracially date, and it's not a good look, to anyone who potentially wants that type of relationship when people like this, who are just victims of domestic violence, are basically put in a situation where they are looked upon as the perp simply because they were a white woman who happened to be attracted to black men. And one of the black men she's been in a relationship with turned out to be a very violent, dangerous black man who put her life at risk. And I just kind of find it so weird too that people keep just throwing around misinformation all over the place. I just went through a video where people were trying to say that she stabbed him 20 times. Like, he was only stabbed one time in the shoulder. That's it. Obviously, if someone's stabbing someone once in the shoulder, they are not trying to even kill them. That's clear. That's a clear sign that that's self-defense. That's why when I first heard that part of the story, I knew that it was self-defense. Also knowing the fact that she called the police 7 times because he was beating on her in 1 month leads me to believe that the type of beatings that were going about basically were obviously life-threatening enough where she needed to call the police on him. And the fact that it happened 7 times in 1 month, that implies that, obviously it was probably a very dangerous situation. And it's not a shock that obviously, some people would try to remove themselves from a situation like that, like she did, and try to get him kicked out of the house. And it makes sense that, if he's going to be an obsessed individual who can't move on, which it appears he was, he's obviously, when he comes back and tries to harass her, he's not going to be just the regular violent boyfriend he was. Now he knows it's over. He's probably going to try to make sure it's over for her. People do this all the time. Somebody's probably doing it right now in this country, in this world, probably many people. It's a big world. People do this all the time. Men do this all the time to their partners. They'll get violent, consistently be domestically abusive to their wife, their girlfriend, their fiance, and then when they move on, they try to end that wife, that ex-wife, that ex-girlfriend, that ex-fiance's life. Because they can't move on and they don't want them to move on. They don't want their partner, their ex-partner, to move on from them. They get possessive, in those situations. And because of that, they don't want them to, they don't want them to be done with them. They want to be done with them. It's a control kind of issue, which kind of makes sense in this case because he is one of those who said he wanted like someone who was submissive. He might have a control freak issue going on there. But anyway, yeah, from everything known here, it seems like he was obviously the abuser. This is very much in line with the whole situation of black femicide. I don't understand why people who have been talking about black femicide don't realize this story is exactly what you guys are talking about. It's the exact same thing. It's just that in this case, she luckily was able to protect herself from a black man, turning her into another statistic, basically, of women who are with black men. It's just a higher statistic when you're with a black man. And it's not just because black men are bad innately, it's probably a cultural thing more than anything. And maybe a self perception of oneself. It could have to do with that too. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say here. I really did like Crystal Swirl's live. She, to me, was really good with the whole part about, the femicide part of it. Talking about the other black women who lost their lives to femicide, black femicide, and things of that nature. To me, this situation, you know, as the epitome is an epitome of an example of, domestically abusive partners turning deadly, you know. And, it's a typical story, honestly, sadly enough, you know. But I just think, like, usually our perception on this is not the way this story has been turning out. And the only reason this story has turned out so badly is just because of people being obsessed with race, when people should be just focusing on the facts, basically, I don't understand why people have to always just think of, race. There's plenty of situations where, there's domestic abuse in interracial relationships, just like intraracial relationships. So I don't understand why it's like such a shock or like, oh no, he could never be a domestic abuser simply because he's a black man. Are you just meaning to say it's a connotation against black men that you don't want to believe in because most of the time it's a stereotype? In this case, it's not a stereotype, though. It's a fact. It's true. He was domestically abusive. That doesn't mean all black men are, but in this case, he definitely was. So there's nothing wrong with admitting the truth, If he's domestically abusive, if he's violent, if he's aggressive, then that's what it is. That's how he is. And, it's not wrong for her to defend herself in a situation where, the domestic abusive partner turns violent, ex-partner. So, yeah, I just wish more people would talk about this because it's like, it's very similar to a lot of femicide and black femicide stories. But, I mean, in this case, it's a happy ending. Also, I wanted to also talk about the whole thing divested people said about, people divested, I'm sorry, said about her basically being into black men. That I just wanted to talk about that specifically because people kept talking about his preference. They both had preferences for the other race, for the opposite race, I guess you could say, outside of their race. And nobody really comes across the fact that she preferred black men, but people focus on him preferring white women, which is just weird to me. I mean, like, it's just, you know, I would think in a black man, white woman relationship, it would make sense if they preferred black men, white women, you know? It would make sense if they have those preferences. It's weird. People always act like with interracial relationships, people are supposed to prefer other races. I mean, like their own race, but somehow be with people outside of their race just because I guess they're a second option or they couldn't be with the one they actually wanted. I don't know. It's just kind of weird to me. Like, of course, they have a preference for people outside of their race. That you thought that they were just in a relationship with a person they had no attraction to for 2 years. That's just weird to me. I don't really get that. Um, but but I do want to say that personally to me, as someone who is into people outside of my race, I definitely do relate and definitely do have, I guess, an allegiance and respect for people who um, have an attraction outside of their race because I mean, like, that should be respected as it is because that's their attraction. And I mean, like, why should we judge someone for their attraction? You know what I mean? I mean, that's just their personal business, you know. I wouldn't want anyone to judge me because I'm only attracted to white men. Same thing with them. I mean, like, if they're only attracted to white women or if they're only attracted to black men, that shouldn't be disrespected, you know. So, that's all I have to say in this video. Sorry if it's a bit long. Well, it's not actually all that long. It's kind of actually on the short end. But, yeah, that's all I have to say in this video. I just kind of feel like people should pay attention to the facts. And in this case, you know, the facts were quite clear, you know, that it was self defense, you know. That's basically it, you know. It was clearly self defense, you know. And people trying to talk about white privilege and all this stuff. I mean, like, okay, if that's the case, then what was it all the times he was beating her up 7 times in 1 month while having the police called on him? What was that? Was that some kind of white privilege? Did she get privilege to be beat up 7 times? Or is it that he had the privilege to beat her up 7 times without any charges? I mean, it didn't seem like he even had any police charges against him. And I think it's kind of weird people keep talking about his family and his friends. Family and friends are never a good source to figure out what happened. They're just basically people who say anything to claim their loved ones were the most innocent individuals. They could be serial killers of 100 people, but they'll say somehow they were completely innocent and they didn't do any harm to anyone. So to me, I mean, like, you know, you don't follow what a family or what friends say about basically what a person that died, you know, what their loved one basically, you know, did or did not do, you know. You go by facts. So that's all I have to say in this video. I'm a little tired, so thanks for watching, everybody. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. Have a great day. Bye.